The lively game show Bruce's Price is Right is at 6:30 after the news.
Hello, good evening to you now from Anglia News. A man's been arrested by police investigating the murder of a pensioner in Lowestoft. The body of Bernard Thomason, who was in his 70s, was found in an upstairs bedroom in a house in Howard Street yesterday morning. A post-mortem revealed he died from multiple injuries. A 32-year-old Lowestoft man was arrested at lunchtime. He's currently being questioned by police. New fears have been expressed today about the health of two plane spotters from Suffolk being held in Greek jails on suspicion of spying. Paul and Leslie Coppin from Mildenhall were among 12 people arrested more than a month ago. They've still not been charged. Paul Coppin's father has been in touch with the group and says they've been struck down by a stomach bug. He claims they're not being treated properly. An Essex school will be closed tomorrow after fire destroyed part of its science block. Firefighters were called to the Barnstable School in Basildon early this morning to find the building on fire by smoke and water. More than 30 firefighters battled to prevent the fire spreading to the rest of the school. No one was hurt. The fire is being treated as suspected arson. A woman is recovering after being attacked in broad daylight in Norwich. The victim was repeatedly kicked in the stomach by two men who then attempted to rob her. She was grabbed from behind and pushed to the ground as she walked along Upper Goat Lane on Friday. Police say the men ran off empty-handed. The woman was taken to the Norfolk and Norwich Hospital with stomach injuries. A school in Essex is asking parents to join their children in the classroom. A new purpose-built family learning centre has opened at Chase Lane Primary and Nursery in Dovercourt. The area has one of the worst literacy rates in Essex. Wendy Pike reports.
Pupils, staff and parents at Chase Lane Primary School in Dovercourt were joined by the Mayor of Harwich for the official opening of the school's new family learning centre. Local MP Ivan Henderson cut the ribbon on the £135,000 building.
Well, Harwich and Dovercourt has one of the lowest rates of literacy and numeracy in Essex, and Chase Lane Primary School seeks to address this. And we welcome families into the centre for improving their own learning, which could be in literacy or numeracy, self-assertiveness and of course ICT, which is becoming very important in people's lives today.
Before the centre was even built, courses were offered through the school in partnership with Tendring Adult Community College. Amongst those collecting certificates for completing computer and parent helper courses was Janine Broom.
I think it definitely builds your confidence. I had some experience in the past with a different type of computer system, and I found this so helpful to be able to know how to operate Windows, for example. And I've moved on now to be employed by the school as a maths assistant, and I'm actually using the computers.
Chase Lane Family Learning Centre is the first one to be purpose-built in Essex. As well as offering a wide range of adult education courses, the centre will also host a toddler group and children's Saturday club. The centre's aim is to offer learning opportunities for the whole community. Wendy Pike, Anglia News, Dovercourt.
A team of bell ringers is hoping a new high-tech computer system will help them to keep the peace with the people who live near their church in Cambridgeshire. The belfry at Castor near Peterborough is regularly used for training. The computer programme allows them to do it in silence. Colin Forshaw explains.
No need to turn the volume up. This is how bell ringing sounds these days during practice at Caston Church. Outside, neighbours can go about their business in peace. Inside, things are pretty normal too, thanks to a £700 computer programme. This computer simulator means the campanologists can practice in silence. They still pull ropes in the traditional way, but the clappers are tied and computer sensors connected to the bells let the team hear what's being played.
When you get a lot of beginners, the bells clash around and it doesn't sound very good outside. So it's ideal to have the computer inside generating the noise, and until the beginners get to a stage where they can ring confidently on the open bells, and then we can ring them outside as well.
The church is now a bell ringing centre after a £1,200 grant from the Council of Church Bell Ringers. There had been no complaints from the village so far, but the bell ringers feared regular ringing might take its toll on relationships.
It means you can make your mistakes and learn from them without annoying the neighbours, so it makes us a little bit more popular in the village.
We can practice as much as we want when we want, and learn from our mistakes, as the computer shows where we've gone wrong.
Altogether, an appealing solution for everyone. Colin Forshaw, Anglia News.
More disappointment for Ipswich fans today. Town went down 1-0 at home to Newcastle, the only goal of the game coming in the first half. Ipswich still bottom of the Premiership. And the draw for the third round of the FA Cup was held this afternoon. The glamour tie in our region sees Norwich City taking on Premiership giants Chelsea at Carrow Road, whilst Ipswich are away at the winners of the second round tie between Exeter and Dagenham and Redbridge. And Southend will be at home to Tranmere if they can overcome Chesterfield in their second round replay. Well, finally, on a similar theme, well, do you remember the Essex football player who was frightened of water? Last week, Wayne Houghton visited a hypnotherapist as he battled to cure his fear in time for Tiptree United's big cup match on the Isle of Wight yesterday. The team convoy got onto the ferry on time, but did Wayne make the crossing? That's the burning question. And did Tiptree's cup run continue? Well, you can find out the answers to all those questions on Anglia News, and that's tomorrow at 6 o'clock. And that's all from the Anglia newsroom for this weekend. Thanks for joining us. But we're back tomorrow morning in GMTV. We kick off at 6:35. But in the meantime, do have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Hello again. Well, a complete about-turn in the weather over the last 7 days. Settled and cold now, but it was all a bit different this time last week. We're in the midst of a bright and breezy spell, which got breezier, but certainly didn't get brighter. A heavy dose of the wet and windies came our way. Some rain most days. Luton seeing a bucketful on Monday night. Then midweek, things changed. We swapped the wet and windies for the fridge freezer feel, going sub-zero at night. And in the middle of that changeover day from the mild wet spell to the dry cold one, there was windy Wednesday. I had a real heavy garden planter blowing around the garden on Wednesday. Cottesmore probably had worse. Gusts up to 53 miles per hour were measured there. So it was action-packed this last week, but we've settled down over the weekend. Foggy mornings, but depending on how close you are to the coast, sunshine slowly coming through. You can see that process on today's action replay. Overnight fog lingered this morning, only slowly lifted to low cloud and then slowly thinned out to let the sunshine get through. And it did for a few of us. Apart from that fog, will it, won't it lift problem, we're generally settled and dry, all courtesy of high pressure. The high pressure keeping any rain-bearing systems well away from the whole of the UK today and for tomorrow. In fact, the high is going to be with us for much of the week, so a settled week ahead. So what you see over the next land tonight, the coast slightly warmer because of the cloud cover around there, but fog forming generally, and that fog could take an age to lift to low cloud and then thin out to let the sunshine through again in the morning. The best chance is going to be inland, just because we will have a slight feed of air coming in off the North Sea, keeping that coastal slice generally duller. But even there, the odd sunny spell maybe. Keep everything crossed. And then you can see by Tuesday's map why that is. The flow coming straight in off the North Sea around that high pressure, and it'll still be around for Wednesday, and it's still going to be around for Thursday, and you guessed it, still going to be around for Friday as well. And you know what North Sea cloud can get up to. It can be stubborn stuff, but at least it's going to be dry throughout the week. So as I say, the pattern for the next few days, as it has been for the last few days, very, very samey. You probably know the words as well as I do by now, so do join in. The Cambridgeshire side of things seeing the fog lift to show the best of any sunshine each day. The seaside slice tending to hang on to the fog or the cloud. All of us seeing cloudier conditions from Wednesday on as that North Sea flow starts to bring cloud in proper, but still inland parts in with the best chance of brightening up through the day, just no money back guarantee. Temperatures more or less the same everywhere really, but the feel factor obviously different, just feeling better when the sun is out, even though the temperatures won't be particularly higher. It's funny how a bit of sunshine can change the feel of the place, isn't it? Just feeling cold and miz under any cloud. Otherwise, we're all in the same settled boat by the end of the week. However, I think you're going to be gagging for some rain just to liven things up a little bit. I certainly will be, just for something different to talk about. So settled and cold for the coming week ahead. You're going to have to continue wearing your bed socks, and hopefully some sunshine coming through for you during the course of the day. And December sunshine is rare, so you get out and enjoy it if you can. So a settled time ahead, cold and dry generally, some sunshine by day.
I think I married the wrong person.
Oh, no!
Just back off, will you? Stop forcing me to do things your way.
It's not really working out between us.
What now? You're what?
Cold Feet. Tonight and tomorrow at 9 on ITV1.
One day I'll fly away.
The lively game show Bruce's Price is Right is at 6:30 after the news.
Row over Blunkett's British test for immigrants. Confusion in Kandahar as hunt goes on for Bin Laden. And in the Premiership, Henry's injury time winner.
From ITN, the ITV Weekend News with Mark Austin.
Good evening. The Home Secretary, David Blunkett, is tonight at the centre of a growing race row. He's being criticised for suggesting immigrants should learn more about British culture. They should, he said, live within the norms of acceptability and develop a sense of belonging. Mr Blunkett's comments come before the publication of 2 reports on last summer's race riots. Some community leaders have claimed such statements could play into the hands of far-right groups. John Ray reports.
They were some of the worst scenes of violence witnessed on British streets for years. The riots that engulfed Oldham, Bradford and Burnley also marked a new low in race relations and are now certain to prompt a major rethink of government policy. But community workers say the Home Secretary has missed the main cause of racial strife.
And the problem that we've had is we've got the elder generation who are made unemployed, made redundant when the mills in Oldham's closed, the manufacturing closed in other towns, and since then they've not had a job, you know. And these are the people who are trying very hard to maintain the culture. There's nothing wrong with maintaining your culture.
In Bradford and elsewhere, Home Office reports out this week will point to deep-seated discrimination, but they'll also blame in part minorities for choosing to live in single-race ghettos. David Blunkett says immigrants must do more to develop a sense of belonging to Britain. In an interview with today's Independent on Sunday, he says, "We have norms of acceptability, and those who come into our home should accept those norms." And speaking about the practice of forced marriage, and in some cultures female circumcision, he says, "We need to be clear we don't tolerate the intolerable under the guise of cultural difference."
It's not been politically correct to talk about this in the past, and I think we should talk about some of these issues in order to help solve them, not to bury them.
But some critics say all this could damage race relations.
There can be misinterpretation, or indeed there can be downright anxiety in and amongst the ethnic communities when politicians choose to raise these kinds of issues in this kind of way. The Home Secretary needs to think again.
I think the basic principle, which is that those seeking permanent residence in a country should demonstrate some allegiance to that country and some knowledge of its language, is what the vast majority of countries around the world already do.
David Blunkett has deliberately set out to provoke a debate, but some of the reaction shows why most politicians choose to tread with caution when it comes to such highly sensitive issues. John Ray, ITN.
John, plain speaking from Mr Blunkett, but are there echoes here of Norman Tebbett's infamous cricket test?
Yes, remember the cricket test, Lord Tebbett's way of sorting out people's national loyalties according to which side they're supporting the test match between England and Pakistan or India or the West Indies. Now, David Blunkett isn't quite. The problems that they're angry about are a lack of jobs and a lack of opportunity.
Is there any suggestion he's overstepped the mark here, or does Tony Blair support him?
Well, David Blunkett revels in his reputation as a blunt speaker. There has been, though, support from Downing Street for the Home Secretary today, though noticeably in less robust language, saying that this is about, yes, celebrating diversity, but also finding ways of people to live together in a single community. So I don't think David Blunkett has done anything to endear himself to the left of his party or liberal opinion generally, but knowing the man, I don't think that will bother him one little bit.
OK, John Ray, thank you. There's an uneasy peace in the Afghan city of Kandahar this evening as rival factions attempt to negotiate a deal on governing the area. In eastern Afghanistan, American forces have intensified their bombing of the mountain caves at Tora Bora. in the hunt for Osama bin Laden. From Afghanistan, here's Tim Hewitt.
The road to Kandahar is littered with the debris of war. There was fighting on the outskirts of the city before the Taliban surrendered, and hostilities could break out again among the groups that have taken over. The men now controlling Kandahar come from 3 different militias. They've been holding talks today under the watchful eye of US Special Forces. But as Afghanistan prepares for a new interim government, tensions in Kandahar have raised concerns about rivalries between its different factions. In the capital, Kabul, Russian emergency workers were handing out books to schoolboys, all part of the new international aid effort. But in a city scarred by war, there's still apprehension about how long the peace will last. This is an area of Kabul known as Daymazang, and it stands as a terrible monument to what can happen in Afghanistan when allies become enemies. 10 years ago, 60,000 people died here and 1 million were made homeless when factions of what is now the Northern Alliance turned on each other and began fighting. In eastern Afghanistan, meanwhile, alliance troops hunting for Osama bin Laden have encountered some fierce resistance from his Al-Qaeda network. One commander here said today he believed bin Laden was personally leading a force of 1,000 fighters in the area known as Tora Bora. In the desert south of Kandahar, US Marines have increased searching for terrorists from Al-Qaeda and for Mullah Muhammad Omar, the leader of the Taliban. Like Osama bin Laden, Mullah Omar's whereabouts remain unknown. Tim Hewitt, ITN, Kabul.
Well, here, the Defence Secretary Jeff Hoon has given his clearest indication yet that British troops could lead a peacekeeping force in Afghanistan. The United Nations delegation is already in the country to see if the region is stable enough for such an operation.
I see every advantage in one country providing the main elements of the headquarters of this operation, something that the United Kingdom has done very well in the past. Certainly, if the United Nations makes a request, we will look at that very, very seriously.
Israeli security forces have shot dead 4 Palestinians who they claim were planning more suicide bombings. Prime Minister Ariel Sharon says that unless Yasser Arafat clamps down on Arab militants, Israeli attacks will continue. But today came another bombing and more injuries in Israel. From there, John Irvine reports.
This is what Israeli tanks left behind in a Palestinian village they entered as part of a search and arrest operation. The Israelis detained 25 suspected militants, but in the process, several homes were destroyed and 4 Palestinian policemen were killed. They died in or around this car, which was peppered by Israeli gunfire. The circumstances of the shooting are hotly disputed. So far, neither action by Yasser Arafat or by the Israelis has neutralized the threat posed by suicide bombers. Another managed to get inside Israel today. He was approaching a bus stop near the northern port of Haifa when he apparently panicked and set off his explosives prematurely. 8 people were slightly injured. Keeping up the pressure on Yasser Arafat, the Israeli cabinet today met in a West Bank army base just a mile from where the Palestinian leader is effectively confined. The Israeli Prime Minister suggested the suicide bombing would mean more military action. Mr. Arafat has called on Washington to restrain Israel, but that seems unlikely. The presence in Jerusalem today of New York's Mayor Giuliani was further evidence that for now it's the Israelis who have the world's sympathy. The gravity of the situation was underlined tonight by an ultimatum given by the American mediator sent here to try to restore calm. He warned both sides that if there wasn't significant progress within 48 hours, he would consider abandoning his peace mission. John Irvine, ITN, Jerusalem.
2 police officers have been airlifted to hospital with serious head injuries after a crowd attacked 2 watchtowers at a police station in Northern Ireland. More than 100 people attacked the Crossmaglen base in South Armagh with petrol bombs. At least 17 other police officers were injured. The 12 British plane spotters held in Greece on suspicion of spying are being denied proper medical care, according to their families. The father of one of the group says many of them have been struck down by a serious stomach bug, but have not been treated. Relatives are also worried the group may now be forced to spend Christmas in jail. 5 would-be refugees found clinging to life in a shipping container in Ireland remain seriously ill in hospital this evening. They were discovered yesterday alongside the bodies of 8 others, including 3 children. It's thought the group may have been in the container for over a week. Police have launched a Europe-wide hunt for those responsible. Here's Helen Wright.
Specialist forensic officers have spent the day searching the inside of the freight container where 8 would-be refugees perished, victims of the latest tragedy from the illegal people smuggling trade. Police in the Irish Republic now believe the gang that orchestrated the journey could be Russian, and officers from Interpol and other European forces have now joined the hunt for the traffickers.
Interpol are working very closely with us in this investigation, and they are helping us in tracing the movements of this container from the time it left Milano in Spain until it arrived at Zeebrugge.
And it was in Zeebrugge, it's now thought, that the group of 13 refugees were smuggled into the container. They remained trapped in near-airless conditions inside for over 4 days until the lorry arrived in Wexford. The 5 survivors remain in hospital this evening. One has told staff he's Turkish. The others are still very poorly, suffering severe breathing problems.
2 of them still remain in a fairly critical condition. The other 3 have improved quite well. Unfortunately, none of them are what I would consider out of danger just yet.
4 of the refugees who made this appalling journey were from the same family. As Irish police try to establish where they came from, European governments are being urged to step in to help people so desperate they'll do anything to leave their home countries. Helen Wright, ITN.
Football now, and non-league side Canvey Island have caused an upset in the second round of the FA Cup by beating second division Northampton. After Neil Gregory gave the underdogs the lead at the start of the second half, they managed to hold on for a 1-0 victory. Canvey Island have drawn First Division leaders Burnley in the next round. In the Premiership, Arsenal have come back from 2 goals down to beat Aston Villa at Highbury. Strikes from Paul Merson and Steve Stone left the visitors firmly in control at half-time. But goals from Sylvain Wiltord and 2 from Thierry Henry gave Arsenal a dramatic last-minute victory. Chris Howes watched the action.
Arsenal went into the game aiming to close the gap at the top of the Premiership. But it was Aston Villa who produced the solid start, with former Highbury favourite Paul Merson striking a precision-perfect shot over the head of Stuart Taylor. Villa continued to pour on the pressure in search of their second goal, and they didn't have to wait long. Steve Stone picked his way through the home side's defence to double the advantage just 14 minutes later. Pires came close for Arsenal in the first half, but it was a performance which saw his team booed at the half-time whistle. Arsenal boss Arsene Wenger sent on Sylvain Wiltord in the second half, a substitution which quickly paid off, his strike putting Arsenal onto the scoresheet just minutes later. Thierry Henry was the right man in the right place in the 72nd minute of the game, levelling the score. But then the most dramatic of finishes, in the dying seconds as Thierry Henry gave a repeat performance in stoppage time. Final score, Arsenal 3, Aston Villa 2. Chris Howes, ITN.
In today's other Premiership games, Leeds beat Blackburn 2-1, Newcastle beat Ipswich 1-0 and Sunderland drew with Chelsea 0-0. And in the Scottish Premier League, Celtic beat Dunfermline 4-0 and Rangers beat Hearts by 3-1. Tonight's main headlines again. The Home Secretary David Blunkett is at the centre of a growing race row. He's being criticised for suggesting immigrants should learn more about British culture. And American forces have intensified their bombing of the mountain caves at Tora Bora in the hunt for Osama bin Laden and the Taliban leader Mullah Omar. And that's the news so far tonight. I'm back at 10:45. Until then, bye-bye.
Hello again. A very dull night ahead of us. A good deal of fog across the country, and to add to that, frost, widespread frost, should I say. Temperatures getting right down. Very chilly night in hand. We're getting down to around -2. So as you can imagine, Monday, a very cold start. Now the majority of that fog will lift. Still going to have some across the Midlands and Yorkshire, whereas the best of the sunshine is certainly going to be up across the far north and west of the country. Temperatures not really faring out too bad. Certainly quite cool across more central areas, but where the rest of the sunshine will be lingering, it looks like it's going to be just a fraction higher. So just to recap then on Monday's situation, certainly a foggy start to the day. Some brightness will come through later on, but it'll certainly be cold, but at least it will be dry. Bye-bye for now.
Powergen, bringing the essentials to life.
You could be walking away with £1 million if you play Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. All you have to do is pick up the phone and call.
The Bobbies, the beat, the pulse of the street. And I hope it blows. You love the law.
Stay exactly where you are.
All right. Keep your helmet on. Heartbeat.
Nice one.
Tonight at 8, ITV1.
Big laughs and big prizes. Bruce's Price is Right coming next.